from Poison Noises. I'm here with Rutsy again, and today we're doing a showcase of the all-you-can-eat buffer. This is one of our pedals that needs a little more explaining than most of the ones we normally do, but one of the things we're always talking about is how important one of these actually is to your pedal chain. It's what we consider to be probably one of the most underrated pedal types, of all pedals. Mostly because most people don't know what it does. We were talking about how educational this should be versus how much we should just be showing what the pedal does. But at the end of the day, it really is important that people understand what this actually does to your chain. And what a buffer does is it is a tiny little amplifier that just boosts essentially the impedance and the quality of your signal. A lot of the times when you're running a whole bunch of pedals in succession to each other, you don't really notice or account for the loss that happens mostly in the high-end frequencies, but also all over the frequency spectrum from your signal that goes into your amp. One of the things that is a good way to tell this is take your guitar, plug it directly into your amplifier, wail on it for a little bit, especially something super bright and chimey where you can really hear how nice and shimmery that top end of your guitar is, and then go run like 20 pedals in a row. Go take a whole bunch of whatever you got lying around and just plug them all into each other in a direct line. And notice the audible difference in what you lose in the high end. Now it is subtle, and people do have a hard time hearing it at times. But it is something that if you could have it, why not?
Yeah, it also depends on the quality of your cables. If you're using really good cables, you might not hear as big of a difference. But if you're just using your standard basic $20 instrument cable and you're using a lot of them, you're losing a lot of signal, and you won't even notice until you use something like a buffer.
It's almost, I've heard it explained to you before as like every jack, whether it be input or output on a cable, kind of acts like a capacitor. And every time you run something through that, you lose a little bit of that impedance, you lose a little bit of that signal. Now, I'll tell you right now, especially in the DIY community when we're trying to roll off high-end off pedal, one of the first things we do is we'll shunt a capacitor between the output and the ground of the pedal, and that'll start to roll off some of the harsh sounds. But sometimes when it's not harsh and it's good sounds you want, the cable will do the same thing. It'll start to take away some of that shimmery brilliance that belongs in your tone.
Yeah.
So why don't we do this? Why don't we turn this thing off? We got him running with a little bit of drive on it right now, and let's have him play something. Then we'll flip the thing on midway through, so you guys can kind of hear that subtle difference in high-end harmonics that you get back from a buffer pedal. It's not it's not like kicking on an overdrive. It's not like kicking on a delay where it's these differences that someone who doesn't know your tone would just be able to hear the differences. But if it is personal to you like it is to us and most other guitar players and stuff like that, you will notice it. It's something that shouldn't be missing, and it's so underrated what one of these things actually does for your signal in terms of quality. And we've heard it explained as the high fidelity switch, on your signal and everything like that. But just in case anyone couldn't quite hear it whatsoever, we are going to take that same dirt box and we're gonna crank it up right now.
A little more gain.
Yeah, let's push it up just in gain, no volume, no tone touches whatsoever. We're gonna push that, and we're gonna turn this thing off real quick. We're gonna do the same thing we did before.
So same riff. Yep, I can hear it here.
That's when I can hear it from the other room. Is when we have it, with two doors in between us and a whole bunch of foam and everything like that. I shouldn't be able to hear those high frequencies as well, but it's
like night and day.
It's a difference. It just kind of takes your tone to the next level, kind of thing. You know what I mean? And if you didn't know you needed it, give it a shot. A lot of pedals have it included already. What we were just saying before is that that Boss kind of like set that standard that every time an effect is going into a pedal, you got to have like a buffer stage that brings that impedance up to like 1 meg before it even affects anything else in your signal. Like you have to bring up that quality, but some pedals don't do that. The ones that do, great. You probably have a few in your chain already that kind of preserve this a little bit for you.
A lot of true bypass pedals don't have buffers.
Absolutely, and it's one thing that's cool about having it isolated in its own box and not having to worry about, you know, what pedals have and what don't, is you can put it anywhere in your chain. You know, we're always talking about where's it better. Is it at the beginning or is it at the end? Is it in the middle somewhere? I personally like it. I usually like it at least before all my dirt boxes, my fuzzes, my overdrives, and my distortions. I definitely always want to have it before my post effects. I want to have it before my delays and my reverbs. But sometimes throwing it on the other end of the dirt boxes, you'll hear the sheen more because you're boosting the harmonics on top of the harmonics that are already being created by all of the distorted effects inside the original pedal you were using.
That's what I do. I run this pedal right after my gluttonous fuzz. So I use that thing, and that was almost like night and day too. You know what I mean? And I'm using decent cables. They're nothing crazy, but I was playing it. I threw one of these after it, and it was like it was immediate. It was crazy. It was so much.
I also hear
so
it
much more signal.
More at low volumes than anything. If you have the amp turned kind of low, and then you put a buffer in there and switch between it on and off in that kind of an environment, I will hear the high frequencies better that way. So definitely good for practicing, for sure, but also just being on the road and having a lot of pedals, like, you should maintain the quality of your signal. Yeah. And if you got the greatest cables in the world and you got the greatest pedals in the world,
you got a good power supply, right, and all these things.
If you got all that, why let that be lost just because you have a lot of those things, you know? Yeah. But that's pretty much it. This is the all you can eat buffer. You know, I'm Jordan. This is Rutsky, and we'll see you next time.